But there's no man as terrified as the man who stands to lose you. Oh, if I don't lose you. Stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. Don't take. Please don't take. I found my mind, I feel the same. It's been a while, but I'm finding my thing. If everything is good and it's great, why do I sit and wait till it's gone? Oh, I tell you, I know I got enough. Yes, I love, but I'm hoping, I thinking I just might lose it all. Please stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. I need these beautiful things that I've got. Every shade of it's trying to come before I say a word. Maybe I can never tell how do you sleep so well. You keep telling me to live around. To go to bed before the day that you wake up for the sunlight. You know you don't gotta pretend. Maybe now and then, but you just won't away. It's feeling like all time. Still you're drunk and laughing. I think it's great. But while in this world, I think I'll take my voice. My coffee back in my bed. You're too sweet for me. Sweet for me. I think my last trip. My coffee back in my bed. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I ain't low, I ain't true in the grounds where I go. I work late, I'm free from my phone. And the job is done, you work somehow. You want to live forever, thirsty like you're a I wish I could go along. Hey, don't get me wrong, you know you're better than soft and smooth, pretty as my life, sweet as a dream. You can sit in a barrel, baby, I'll wait till the day. I'd rather take my voice. My coffee, you're too sweet pretty. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I take my whiskey. So I do, or just a poison if it's late at night. Each night, oh, tricky twice. Only go deeper than I know. Puts up feels like a rodeo. Knows just how to take control. I'm vulnerable. Heat straight talking to my soul. Conversation overload. Got me feeling fine. So, Control. Who understands? So it goes deeper than I know. Feels like a real knows just how to take control. Heat street talking to myself. Conversation overload. Got me feeling can you compete? Now is your time. Run when you hear that words. You on my team, or stuck on the sidelines, waiting for someone to tell you to go. For someone to tell you to go. Just now, need someone to hold me close, deeper than I know. Sometimes feels like a rodeo, knows just how to take control. He's straight talking to us on the conversation overload. 'Cause I can tell you this, I can tell you this. I'm trying to be romantic, I'm playing it in the back. You don't get attached. I can tell you this, I can tell you this, this. I try to be romantic, I hate it, you don't get me fast. Just one taste, you're all you need, I'm all you place. Spend your keys, the wish, yourself, you're probably for your mistakes. I just scared I'll let you down. I need to find out. I'm so proud, baby, I'm so proud of you. I can tell you this, I can tell you this. I try to be romantic, I hate it, you don't get attached. I can tell you this, I can tell you this. I try to be romantic, I hate it, you don't get attached. Let's stress you out, you're not dry. Looking at your arm, I'm gonna turn you around. Can we take a seat? Can you make it loud? Cause I'm so proud. Baby, I'm so proud of you. I can tell you this. I can tell you this. I try to be romantic, I hate it, you don't get attached. I'm completely scared. I can tell you this, I can tell you this. You try to be romantic, I hate it, you don't like just something fantastic. No jump in the gun, but we're both still young. One day we won't be. Didn't know what I want till I saw your face. Say goodbye to the old me. Came out and door, didn't give no warning. Pillow so heavy like the two most wanted and I don't know what you're doing tonight, but I'll be your shotgun rider till the day I die. Smoke out the window, flying down the 405. I'll be backseat, baby, driving you crazy anytime you like. Oh, I'll be your shotgun rider till the day I die. Making waves in the wind with my empty hand, my other hand on you. Been a while since I haven't tried to put. As you promised me that I was more than all the miles combined, you must have had yourself a change of heart like halfway through the drive. Oh, the smell of your perfume. Thought I was immune. Looking around this room, can't help but see the traces of you. This moment is surreal. I can't put in the words how I feel. When, where have you been? It knows me like you. Nobody gonna love me, nobody like you. Can't even deny it. Every time I try, when I get my eyes, you know I'm lying. Body to body, skin to bone. Just for me that you were made.
for me, only for me. You were made oh yeah, you were made for me, made for me, made for me, just for me. Mm.
Let's just call it media. That's all I know.
Turn off the lights, we gonna lose our minds tonight. What's the dealio? I'm gonna stop too much. 5 a.m. turn the radio up. Where's the rock and roll? Grab your penny snatcher. Call me up if you a gangster. Don't be fancy, just get dancy. Why so serious? Just slam, oh hot damn, but I don't you understand? Wish you just freak out. Stop coming in hot. I should be locked up right on the spot. It's so on right now. Snatcher, penny snatcher. Call me up if you a gangster. Don't be fancy, just get dancy. Why so serious? My glass is empty. Sucks. So if you do school for gold, I mean, you treat like a fool, choose to let it go. We can always party on our own. Don't raise your glass if you own.
What up, guys?
We're Justice Crew.
Hope you enjoyed listening to our party mix.
Check us out on www.justicecrew.com.
Release that. I know that you still wanna see me. Sunday morning music real loud. Let me love you while the moon is still alive. Something in you, lit up heaven in me. The feeling won't let me sleep. 'Cause I'm lost in the way you move, the way you feel. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with you. Possibilities. I look like all you need. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with you. Possibilities. I look like all you need. I just wanna feel your skin on mine. Feel your eyes do the exploring. Passion in the message when you smile. Take my time. It's something in you. Lit up heaven in me. The feeling won't let me sleep. Cause I'm lost in the way you move, the way you feel. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with you. Possibilities. I look like all you need. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with you. Possibilities. I look like all you need. See wonderland in your eyes. Might need your company tonight. You, yeah, up heaven in me. The feeling won't let me sleep. Cause I'm lost in the way you move, the way you feel. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with me. Possibilities. I look like all you need. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with me. Possibilities. I look like all you need.
This woman is my destiny. She said, "You are victims of the night. The chemical, physical, kryptonite. Helpless face and fading light. Oh, we were bound to get together, bound to get together. Shoot the fire, fire, let's bring the fire. She said, don't you dare right. Just keep your eyes on me. I said, darling, no. She said, shut up and dance. Woman is my destiny. She said, shut up and dance. A back dress and some beat up sleeves. My discotheque, feeling dream. I felt it in my chest, so she looked at me. I knew we were bound to be together, bound to be together. I but it's to the words. Just keep it. I sit down in my just shut up and dance. Woman is my destiny. She said, shut up and dance with me. Would you feel back? Just look in your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said you're fast. This woman's my destiny. She said, won't you get me out? Just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said you're fast. This woman's my destiny. She said, I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. 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 Tonight's the night. Let's live it up. I got my money. Let's spin it up. Go out and smash it. Like, oh my God. Jump out that sofa. Let's kick it on.
I know that we'll have a ball if we get down and go out and just lose it all. Still, stretch down, I wanna let go. Let's go way now, space out, losing our control.
Fill up my cars. Over cars. Look at it dancing. Just can't get up. Let's paint the towns. We'll shut it down. Let's burn the roofs.
And then we'll do it again.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And do it. And do it. Let's do it. And do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I got a feeling. I saw that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. I feel it. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Tonight's the night. Hey, let's live it up.
Let's give it up.
I got my money. Hey, let's spin it up. Let's spin it up. Go out and smash it. Like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. Jump out that sofa. Come on. Let's get it. Oh, fill up my cup.
Drink.
Monster time.
Behind.
Look at it dancing. Just take it. Oh, let's paint the town. Paint the town. Shut it down. Shut it down. Let's burn the roof.
And then we'll do it again.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And do it. And do it. Let's live it up and do it. And do it. And do it. Do it. Do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do it. Do it. Here we come. Here we go. We gotta rock. Easy come. Easy go. Now we on top. Feel the shot. Body rock. Rock it. Don't stop. Round and round. Up and down. Around the clock. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Do it right. That is. Wait for
Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome, JMG. I'm so glad to see you, and those that are guests in our JMG home, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Glad we are a full house today. Glad that you guys joined us. Want to give you a welcome. We all know why we're here. And Let's all have a good time. Let's all be respectful. We have questions that will be answered. And now I'm going to introduce to some, bring out to many that already know, our fearless leader, our Mr. JMG, Mr. Jason Mitchell. Okay, one more time. Mr. Jason Mitchell.
Hello. In a moment, I'm going to bring Kari up. Just give a background on why I wanted to do this. I went to Kari's team and I said, hey, look, we want to do something to where with our company and with our close friends, we want to do something intimate and we want to do something to where we can bring people that are on both sides of the aisle. The way I look at things is that everyone's opinion counts and everybody matters. But now more than ever, I do believe that this upcoming election is the most important election in our lifetime. But I do believe it's important to have bipartisan people come together, ask questions, and collaborate. And that's why we did this as a town hall, and we did not do this as like a rally. This is about what is out there and the issues at hand. And that's why we kept it to where we kept it today, because of Kari and her team. They graciously said, we'd love to come, talk to your team, talk to your close family. So I want to give a round of applause to Kari's team for winning. You know, we were promoting this event for the past couple weeks, and I've always had this itch to maybe get into politics, but what I'll tell you is it's a scary world. You know, you say one thing and you get people that love you and you get people that hate you, that don't even know you. You know, we've had some really good support by wanting to bring Kari in here, but we also had some people out there that weren't so gracious, kind of threatening you, threatening your family, and you sit back there and you say, holy smokes, is this what this has come down to? That you can't even have an opinion. And to me, every single person should have an opinion. Everybody should have an opinion. And no one should ever choose the God that you worship, the person that you love, or the people that you vote for. That I fully believe. So with that being said, I would like to
Hello, everyone. Let me put a microphone on. How are you this morning? Good to see you. I just said, I mean, that could have been a disastrous entrance. You know how scared I was right there? Oh, got my blood flowing. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Here.
Thanks for being
Looking
here.
forward to this.
Me too. Me too. I couldn't, before we get all this, how do you do what I could not imagine how busy you are? What is a day like for you? How crazy does it get?
Every day. Oh, the microphone's not turned on.
Oh.
Is that right? Okay. There we go. Can
Okay,
you hear me now,
perfect.
guys? Okay. Well, every day is a little bit different, but on the campaign trail, it's busy. We don't waste a single minute. And for example, we've been down to Tucson. We spent a couple days there. We just came back from Kingman, Lake Havasu City, Golden Valley. What did I miss? Bullhead City, and all points in between. So it's just about getting out and talking to voters, which I love doing. I mean, I had a career as a journalist, and when you're a journalist, you're talking to people. You're talking about the issues that matter. You know, that was such a great job to have, where I was able to every day walk into work and wrap my arms around the big issue facing our state that day and find the experts in it, interview the experts, boil it down in a way that people who were too busy to really dig into it could understand. And obviously, journalism has changed a lot. It's kind of become propaganda, but I feel like in some ways, I'm still a journalist. I'm still asking questions, learning, trying to find solutions to the problems we're facing. But the days are long. They start usually at 6 a.m. and usually we crash into bed at midnight and start all over.
It's amazing.
The amazing thing is, though, and I'm sure that you all, because I'm sure you're all, you know, real estate professionals, and you know that when you're passionate about a project, you've had those sales or projects that you've been passionate about and ones that you're not so passionate about. When you're really passionate about a project, you just have this energy that you don't even know where it comes from. And I find that that's what I have right now. And I've never had that kind of energy before. But maybe it's just the mama bear in me, and I feel like my hair's on fire because we're losing our country. And that's what's propelling me every day.
Well, you know, and speaking of that, it goes to the point of you gave up an amazing career. Lead anchor woman out here in Arizona. Your love of Arizona obviously is just incredible, but you did give that up. And when we were at dinner, you mentioned to me, I gave it up because I felt that our country needed me. But what I don't think people understand is the fight that you have, and that you're doing this because of the love of country and nothing more. You mentioned that for 3 years, you know, you've been out there, you guys have been living off your personal savings and doing this because you actually want to make change. And I think that's incredibly commendable.
I don't think we have a lot of time left. If we all, you know, I'm looking out, and I think I see some people my age and a little bit older. I'm not going to stare at anybody, but I see a few of us middle-aged folks, and then I see younger people here. But I want to have the country that we had growing up, where we had our freedoms intact, our First Amendment, we had our constitutional freedoms intact. I'm just worried that we're losing our freedoms. We're losing our security, our safety, the quality of life that we've enjoyed in America, and we're watching things just fall apart. And so I feel like, you know, we've got very limited time, and I'm willing to sacrifice literally everything to save this country and bring about some solutions to these problems. When you think about it, the problems are big. We wake up every day and we go, oh man, what's going to happen today? But the solutions are actually not that complex. You know, securing the border, we got to finish the wall. We have to stop the invasion of people pouring across our border, because the American taxpayers are footing the bill for it. And the American taxpayers are already, you know, they don't have enough money to get by on their own. These are pretty simple solutions to some of the problems. You know, with the inflation, we got to stop printing money and spending out of control, get our energy sector up running strong. When it comes to national security, we have to stop coddling countries that are funding and pushing terrorism, and get tough again against our adversaries. These are really kind of simple solutions, but we have to have the people in place to do it. And I think we can do that if we get out and get involved in this next election like we've never been involved before. And that's going to require all of us to take part in it, everyone to make a sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, you know, as we look at the major issues right now with what's going on, you have the economy, you have immigration, clearly a major issue here in Arizona, foreign policy, which now be #1 after what happened last weekend, which is crazy. Yeah. But before we get into some of the major topics, a major issue that Arizona is facing, along with many of the other states, is a housing crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Homeowner affordability is almost out of reach for so many Americans that work hard to achieve home ownership. Not only that, but the cost of rents are skyrocketing as well too. We have a major problem. And if this pattern continues, which a lot of it was caused by inflation, but if this pattern continues, we're going to see a lot of people that now start living as dual families, where would lead to more domestic violence issues and so many problems that come with not being able to afford housing. What do you see as a solution to this problem?
Well, I think it's multifaceted. We have to stop having millions of people pour into our country. We don't have enough housing for the people who are here, and now we've got 9 to 12 million. That adds additional stress to the system. B, and many of you will probably relate to this because you're involved in projects that involve real estate. We got to make it easier from the planning process to actually getting the shovel in the ground to get these homes built. We haven't been building enough homes fast enough for a long time in Arizona. We've got a lot of people moving here, but we don't have enough homes. So I want to make sure that process is expedited. And then there's some creative things we can do. Not all of this can, by the way, come from the federal government. Let me ask a quick question. How many of you voted and got very involved in your last local election and I'm talking like city council, board of supervisors? How many of you got really super involved? Okay, if every hand didn't go up in this group, then you got to change that up. Those are the people who are making the decisions that are affecting your ability to get your project through. It's happening down there at the municipal level, the state level, where there's a lot of restrictions, a lot of red tape to getting a project through and completed. And the longer it takes for your project to go, the more expensive it is. I mean, you don't have to be a math whiz or a finance whiz to get that. The longer that project takes, the more expensive it is. So it's really imperative you get involved in those races. Find out where those candidates are on the issues that matter to you on getting some of these projects through so we can get some homes built. But I think we need to look at some creative, I'm open to looking at some creative solutions as well. If you go to any city or town, Scottsdale is not an exception. It's just like other cities and towns. Lots of commercial real estate out there sitting with a for rent, vacant.
Yes.
And I think we need to look at ways to provide tax incentives to turn those commercial properties into residential.
Absolutely.
They're in great spots. They're in spots that people want to live. Usually they're right in the middle of everything. And we need to look at ways to convert them. In Arizona, that would be huge. That would help us immediately get a bunch of housing. But a lot of this is going to come from the local level. We need to also look at energy prices. Every single 2x4 bolt, wire, the paint, every single thing that goes into building a home or an apartment, it depends on the energy prices will bring the price up because everything is moved. Energy is intricately involved in every aspect of building. And we need to work at bringing our energy prices down. And that means being open to affordable energy, not just this renewable stuff that's not reliable. My opponent is all about the Green New Deal. Well, the Green New Deal is going to set us back and cost us a fortune. One of the things that he's for in the Green New Deal would actually have our gas prices go up by $1 a gallon. I mean, can you imagine what that would do to the price of building a home or an apartment complex if we add $1 a gallon to what they already are? That means hauling equipment, hauling materials, everything would just go up. So there's many facets that go into this, and we need to tackle them. What can we tackle from the federal level? We can tackle the border crisis. People pouring into this country, taking up housing that we don't frankly have. We can tackle the inflation problem. Obviously, Joe Biden is not doing well with the economy. No matter how much the media tries to gaslight us and tell us everything's fine, we know it's not. And we obviously know that President Trump and his policies, his America First policies, whether you love him or hate him, they worked for us. I think if we're all honest with ourselves in this room, if we raised our hand that things were going better for us 4 and 5 years ago than they are now. And so we need to get back to that economy and get out of the Bidenomics, which are not working.
I'm going to go off script here. Why is this happening? Why is the border? Why have over 10 million people come into this country over the past 3 years? You're around a lot of politicians every single day. What is the real reason this is happening?
Well, I think that it's really by design. And you could say that many people have said the Democrats want more voters. Their policies obviously aren't working and they want more voters. You could say they want cheap labor. I will tell you this, when you look at why people can't get into homes, inflation has gone up so high. The cost of living has gone up so high. In some cases, things like home heating oil up 70%. How many people got a 70% wage increase? How many people got a 10% wage increase in the last year? And prices are skyrocketing. So you bring in a bunch of cheap labor, and all you're going to do is watch the quality of life for Americans, especially low to middle income Americans, plummet. Because all of a sudden, there's a lot more people to choose from who will work for next to nothing. And we're going to watch fewer people be able to attain home ownership. That's the American dream. That's a big part of the American dream. How many people here own a home? It's a part of the American dream. Our young people right now, and I have a 19 and 21-year-old, so I'm going to just tell you, I'm being selfish right now. I want them to have the American dream. And my daughter said to me, even though she works really hard, she does everything right. She said, I don't know if there's enough hours in the day for me to work hard to get a down payment to ever buy a home. She said, even if I worked every waking hour, I don't know how it would happen, Mom. And she's actually doing pretty well. We are pricing our young generation out of the American dream, and something's got to give. And I think Joe Biden, by design, wants the cheap labor. I think, frankly, he wants to destabilize our country. We know that his family, if you've been paying attention to the real news and not the fake news, has been involved in dealings with our adversaries where they're taking payouts from China, from Ukraine, from Burisma, from the mayor of Moscow's wife, millions of dollars going to the Biden family. And you have to wonder, where does their loyalty lie? Does it lie with us here in America, or does it lie with interests overseas that are actually gunning for America? It's really concerning. I don't know why he did it, but it took him 1 hour being in office to say, I'm going to dismantle a border policy that's working brilliantly.
Yep.
The only time, by the way, that we did see real wages increase was during President Trump's tenure. They didn't go up enough, but they did go up once we had that border secure and we didn't have a flood of cheap labor coming in. Now, are there any people who do construction in here? Indirectly, even with projects that you're building a project, and so you're kind of connected with the construction of it. I understand that a lot of the issues with the construction and the teams that are putting these homes and projects together are they don't have enough labor. We've got to get our kids trained up, and this was what I pitched a lot of when I was running for governor. You know, not every kid needs to go to college. We're actually finding out a lot of those college degrees aren't worth the paper they were printed on. What we need to do, and what I was pitching as I was running for governor, was bringing more of the trade skill training right there into high school, starting in 10th grade, so we can get kids out. It's such a rewarding line of work. Everyone you talk to who has made a living in the trades will tell you, made a ton of money, and I loved my job. It was a great job. Many of them started in the trades and then ended up having a business where they employed many other people in the trades and did quite well. Our boys and girls need to have skills when they leave high school. And so one of the things that we're working on, a policy point that we're working on, is quick vouchers. I guess we'll call them quick vouchers. I got to come up with a better name than that. But what it is any high school student who graduates, and this can be a trial program. Let's see how it works. But I have a feeling it will work brilliantly and address some of these needs that they have in industries that are building and moving our economy forward. $5,000 grant to any high school student who wants to immediately after high school enroll in the trades or a certification program. This would quickly get our kids trained and ready to take these jobs. And it's not a huge investment, especially when you consider how we're throwing money around willy-nilly, throwing $200 billion into Ukraine and paying for their pensions and a wall over there and their protection and God knows what else, yachts and everything else. Meanwhile, we have our own people suffering here. We've got to start getting our young people trained for the jobs of the future. And many of those are in the trades. It's very easy to get them the starting point of being able to start working on these projects.
Well, I think that the real root of what we saw when it comes to housing is bad monetary policy.
Mm-hmm.
When you print your way out of something or try to, you may not raise taxes, but the reality is inflation is the ultimate tax on the middle class.
It truly is.
We have commodity prices up 30, 40, 50%. We hit $1 trillion in credit card debt for the first time in our history. And what happens is that you take COVID, where we printed all this money,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're trying to print more money with relieving all the student loan debt. Printing money is the ultimate tax because it leads to these inflationary numbers that are absolutely uncontrollable. So when inflation skyrockets, you got to raise interest rates because you got to offset prices, but you also took an environment with COVID where we printed trillions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
We then artificially lowered interest rates to where people are flush with money, many were, bought second homes at a 3% interest rate, and now home prices go up because we didn't have enough inventory at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we excelled that. People bought more homes. They're not going to sell these homes because they're in a 3% interest rate.
That's right.
And
They're
then
not going to go to 7.5.
not to go to 7.5. So they're not selling their properties. And then you have big business, which is one of the things that I've been advocating on is we have to do something with big business. We have a story, Kari, that I think is quite alarming. We're fortunate enough here that we sell more homes to veterans than any real estate group in the country. So we service a lot of veterans, and it's something that we take to heart. One of the scenarios that we had was one of our veteran clients went to purchase a home, and they actually offered more money than the competitive offer, which happened to be from an institution, and they were cash. The seller took the cash deal because they didn't want to take the risk of the VA buyer getting an appraisal. So they took the lower price cash offer.
Wow.
2 months later, that same veteran that was competing to buy the home was a tenant in that home. So we are losing home ownership opportunities to big business. I believe that there has to be some policy passed to where if big business is going to suck up a lot of inventory in our markets, then there needs to be tax on that. But I also think in exchange for that, to free up some inventory, that we can come up with some creative solutions to give tax incentives to release those homes to end users.
Yeah.
What is your stake on big business when it comes to real estate?
Well, I want to see business do well. Big business, small business, new business. So I don't want to restrict any business, but I do understand what you're saying. People are trying to get into these homes. They have been able to save up the money, scrounge up enough. They've been able to get the loan approved, which is always, work to do all of that. I've bought many homes in my life. So, by the way, I bought my first home when I was in my 20s. This is how old I am. It cost just over $60,000. Can you imagine if that were the case today, how many young people could be in homes? But this is how much inflation and just our out of control spending has, what it's done to all that. I want to find ways to make sure that people, real people, first-time homeowners, families can get into homes and not be outbid or even underbid by hedge funds and such. And I think we have to work to craft some sort of policy. I think you're right about that. I'm not going to be able to lay it out exactly how we would do that, but this is not a one-off where one or two people have mentioned this. This is a problem and a question and a concern I get all across the state. I can't even tell you how many times somebody comes up to me and says, I wanted to buy a home that was being built in the neighborhood. I found out that it was only for rent. The hedge funds came in, bought up the whole thing, and they'll only rent to us. People want to have the American dream. And so we need to work on a policy that will allow for home buyers, real people, families, individuals to purchase a home. And we've got to come up with something quickly because this is becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger problem.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was going back and forth with the Wall Street Journal not too long ago, and they argued with me that institutions only own 3% of the homes in America. And my argument to that was, that's every home in America. That's every luxury home, every condo, every townhome, every single home in America, they own 3%. The problem is they don't buy every home in America. They have a specific buy box, and the buy box of which they buy are the same properties that first-time home buyers, veterans, FHA homeowners look to buy.
Those starter homes.
So that number is not an accurate number because those, the way I look at it is, and we're not here for my opinion, but
although right now I can tell you with 100% certainty, I trust you with the economy more than I do Joe Biden. Jason, can we get you temporarily in the White House?
I get frustrated because when you look at inflation and the cost of living in this country, people are check to check and people are burying themselves in debt.
Yeah.
The only way out, you can't make money in the stock market when you don't have money to put into the stock market or very little.
That's why home ownership is
so important. The people that need it the most are getting pushed around and beat out. And now over the past 4 years, there's so many that'll never achieve home ownership because of the cost. And so
Joe Biden came up with a plan. His solution was, okay, if you'll sell that house that you have at 3% that you got under President Trump's, incredibly low mortgage rates, we'll give you $10,000. Well, who in their right mind is going to do that? You're going to have to go into a house that's with a mortgage rate at 7.5%.
You can't do it.
Well, no one's going to do that. It wouldn't make sense unless you're in some $100,000 home, which I can't think that there are very many around.
No.
So he
knows
there's a
inflation.
problem.
The conundrum is you can't lower rates right now because it just, if you lower interest rates, it's not going to offset the inflation. I mean, we've been waiting for these inflation numbers to go down so we can see some relief in rates. And the problem is they're not going down, so you can't relieve rates. And it's simply because we have printed so much money. It's not the way.
And I have a feeling they would be much higher if we weren't in an election year. I have a feeling that they need to raise those rates even higher, but they're holding back. And then, God forbid, if we end up with Joe Biden in the White House, we will see them spike, and we're going to see permanently very high mortgage rates. So it's imperative. This isn't about someone's personality. This isn't, oh, well, I don't like, the way somebody talks and this guy's at least a little bit nicer or whatever you think. This is so beyond the personality of it. This is down to the policy of it and what works. Every industry is struggling. Actually, there are some people doing better. If you are in the human smuggling business or the drug trafficking business, you're probably making a fortune right now. But the rest of us are struggling. And we have to get involved in this election. This election is about common sense policy that'll put us back on track for a strong economy and making it easier to build homes. I want to see our population grow. I want to see families grow. Hard to grow a family if you're living in a one-bedroom apartment or a studio and you can't afford your own groceries and just getting by. And one of the things that Sam was telling me, Sam does my policy. Wave your hand, Sam. If you have any policy questions after I leave, reach out to Sam. He's incredible. One of the projects recently that he was working on or he had been involved in, downtown Phoenix, the cost of it cost more than the most high-end Scottsdale housing project you could ever have imagined because of the red tape, the bureaucracy, the federal government, the state government, everybody getting involved and made it just absolutely impossible. Affordable housing shouldn't cost that much. But the requirements they put on you, if you take their money, okay, well now all of a sudden you have to build a emergency, what do you call it? What was that you were telling me?
911 alert.
A 911 alert. So here you are, you're a builder trying to make affordable housing, and they have all these requirements. You have to have a 911 alert button in each room or something like that. This is crazy stuff. I talked to a builder a couple years ago, said we actually came up with we wanted to help. We believe in affordable housing. We put a project to the city, and it was great. It was going to build a great neighborhood, super easy starter homes that real people could get into. And they rejected our neighborhood plan because we didn't have in that plan covered patios on the backyards. So the whole project went down because there were no covered patios in the backyard. That's something you want to get into the house and then you can build it yourself.
Right. Yep.
But to take a project that could have provided 50 affordable homes and throw it away because it was not cost effective to do that back patio. The construction guys have to make a little money as well.
That's right.
So we have a lot of problems, and the solution to them is get the Biden administration out. We've already seen that they can't handle what's going on. They have tanked a strong economy. They have made it so that our streets and neighborhoods aren't safe anymore. I mean, you want to talk about living in a home and living the American dream. You get into that home and you want to have some security in your home. And we've had these bandits that are here illegally. And we all know about it. If you live in Scottsdale, you've heard about it. All these suburban neighborhoods are being hit of people here from Chile,
Yeah.
professional burglars breaking into
We
their
had one
home.
in our backyard. We had to call the police. They arrested, never showed up to court. And it was scary. We literally were on our way out to go on a trip. This guy's in my backyard. He comes out. I thought he was working with my landscaper. I said, "Oh, hey, are you working with Angel?" And yeah, this and that. Then he came back. Well, come to find out, thank God we called the police. Come to find out, he was part of that that criminal organization in Chile. They arrested him, didn't show up for his court date.
Of course
But
not.
we saw it firsthand in our own backyard.
Arrest, and that person should have just been deported. I mean, frankly, why are we?
Well, they let him go that day. And we were nervous because we weren't home. Our nanny was home with our children. And we said, well, what if he comes back? Because he's upset that we had him arrested. And they said, there's nothing we can do. And I said, that's a crazy policy.
There is something we can do starting in January of 25, and that is complete the wall at the border and start, when people come into our country illegally, process them and send them back to their homeland. And some people would say that doesn't sound compassionate. When are we going to start showing compassion for our American citizens who are struggling right now? And the only way, frankly, to save our homeland is to send these people back to their homeland. You can't come into our country illegally and expect to stay. And I'm running against a guy who wants to give all 12 million people who poured across the border, and I call it in the Biden invasion, he wants to give them all asylum, and he wants them to be able to vote. And if we allow for that to happen, we will lose our country. This isn't about being, uncompassionate to people. I am actually very compassionate, and smuggling human beings is not compassionate. Drug smuggling and letting the cartels control our border and our immigration policy, which right now they do. Let's face it, The cartels are in control of our border and our immigration policy. And that is not compassionate to the people of this great country. And it will be the end of our country if we don't get serious about this. So day number one, we got to get serious. I know President Trump is not only saying he will do it, but I think we all know President Trump well enough that you know he will do it. He will secure that border. We will see our economy improve. We will see things improve if we make a big change in Washington, D.C. Get some people there who want to do the right thing and aren't owned and controlled by special interests.
Agree with that.
I'd love to ask a quick question if I can. A show of hands, how many people here, if you don't mind, if you don't want to say, you don't have to, are registered independent in this crowd? Got some independents, okay. And then Republicans? Do we have any Democrats in here? Got some in the back? I want your vote too.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming, come on in. This is gonna take all of us. We've got problems, like I said, they're not impossible to solve. We can't just have, you know, Republican, Democrat, and at each other's throats. We've got to bring America together. And I'm vowing to do that. Someone said, are you trying to bring the Republican Party? Yeah, I'm trying to bring independents in too, and disaffected Democrats, because I know that even if you voted for Joe Biden, you're still paying, I believe, the same gas prices that I pay. I don't think that if you voted for Joe Biden, you got a discount card for groceries. We're all struggling under this. And we need to make sure that we get some common sense solutions. America First policies are not about the Republican Party. They're about America. And right now, America needs some TLC. And we're going to give you some TLC, turning this nightmare around. And I really do believe our most prosperous days are ahead. I truly do.
Yeah, and I think going into immigration and things happening in the world, as we saw this past weekend, it's scary out there. I think the world is more hostile and fragile than it's been in a very long time. I'm not here to take sides, but I feel as though when President Trump was in office, people were afraid to do certain things because they knew there'd be consequence.
Yep.
I feel like today, there is no consequence.
Remember when President Trump came out and said, he kind of threatened Iran, he said, if you do anything, we are going to hit you back 10 times harder in ways that you can't even fathom. I mean, I paraphrased. That will send a chill down someone's spine, especially knowing that he would. You know, with Joe Biden, they don't fear him. And we need peace through strength. We had that with President Trump. And right now, there's no respect on the world stage for Joe Biden. There's just no respect for him. He's fumbled and bumbled his way through foreign policy. His withdrawal from Afghanistan was disastrous, and that's putting it mildly. You know, $80 billion of top-grade weaponry is now in the hands of all kinds of terrorists all over the world because of the way Joe Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan. He didn't do it in an orderly fashion. He didn't do it in a way that made sense. Even military leaders were like, what is going on here? And because of that, this top-grade military defense materials and equipment is in the hands of terrorists all around the globe, being used against us and our allies. And then you look at what he did with Iran, opening up taking down the sanctions, the Iran deal, reviving that after President Trump.
Why? Why would someone do, I mean, truly, why would someone do that?
Well, I believe he wants to destabilize the world. I think he has set us on a globalist agenda where we bring down the United States and we're just one big globalist blob, no borders, and weakening the United States and strengthening our adversaries. I mean, if you're getting payments and your family's getting huge multi-million-dollar payments from China, you're not putting America first. You know, and then they pushed that bill, the TikTok bill. I think if you have kids, they even heard about that. And they were really, really bent out of shape about TikTok. And look, I'm not even on TikTok. I don't like the idea that it's a, you know, Chinese-run company, and they're putting a lot of content out there that's full of censorship and things like that. But I thought, wow, they're spending a lot of time on this. I'm less worried about a Chinese company, and more worried about the Chinese-controlled company, and more worried about our Chinese-controlled president. I'd like to get him out, because can't have somebody who is beholden to our adversary sitting in the White House.
Agreed. All right, Kari, brace yourself. I have a question for you. I wasn't going to ask it, but I was told it's the right thing to do.
Ask any question. First of all, I'm not afraid of any question. As a matter of fact, someone said, you do better when people ask you mean questions. Like, wait a minute, I do want some nice questions.
Well, I was
as
sitting
well.
there last night and I was coming up with questions, and my wife says, you know, you should ask her about abortion, because we feel as though, she felt as though, and she loves you, but there was a little pivot. And I said, I'm not touching that. I'm staying away from it. That just scares the crap out of me. And she said, no, you got to. And then I came in today and they said, no, Kari wants the question. So here's my question. Can you explain your shift on abortion from Civil War law to now no federal ban on abortion? Because I believe that truly that's something that people do want to hear from what we've heard this past
Well,
week.
first of all, I've never shifted from the no federal ban. You know, if you're my age or older, if you've been on this planet for more than 50 years, Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, even though both sides knew it was unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court struck that down and brought the decision back to the states. So we're going to have 50 different state laws. I'm pro-life. I want to save as many babies as possible. I think some people hear pro-life and they go, I just want to save as many babies as possible. I know the joy of being a mother. Do we have any moms in the crowd? Show of hands. And how about dads? There's a real joy in being a parent.
Yes, there is.
And unfortunately, I think in culture, the messaging from culture has been babies are a burden, families are a burden. For our young people, some of them believe that. So I want to make sure that we have the opportunity for more people to have babies. I've always said it when I was running, since I jumped into this race, I don't and I won't support a federal ban on abortion. We worked hard to bring it back to the states. And now we're in that part where we're kind of the hard part, where we're digging through and states are coming up with what their law is going to be. And frankly, we're going to have 50 different laws. And I had a little bit of a shift. I'm still pro-life. I still want to make sure we save as many babies as possible. When I had an opportunity to go to Hungary over the summer, I had an opportunity to go speak there. And on my way there, it was like a 10-hour flight. I was doing a little bit of research on Hungary, and I came across a statistic that blew my mind. I mean, it was like 2 a.m., everyone's sleeping on the plane, and I wanted to stand up and scream, how is this possible? They were able to cut their abortion rate in half, and they didn't change a single law. And it got me thinking, we are so caught up on the law. How many weeks? A total ban, 15, whatever, all the things we're caught up in. And they didn't change a single law and cut the number of abortions in half. That means they saved a lot of babies. And so when I got to Hungary, I asked Viktor Orban, I said, how did you do that? And why? Tell me how you did that. I want to learn about that. And he said, well, we realized it would be almost impossible to change the law. We watched our population was collapsing. We needed to grow our families. And we said, well, how can we get people to have babies? So they started offering things like baby bonuses and a tax break when you got married, and showed women that there was support for them so that they didn't have to choose abortion. And it made me realize that we're going about saving babies the wrong way. I would love it if we never lost another baby to abortion. But we've had 50 years of people living in Roe v. Wade. We're going to have 50 different abortion laws, and abortion will be legal somewhere in our country. I realize that my goal truly is, how can we save more babies? And that is by offering true options. The left says they're pro-choice. Guess what? When you walk into an abortion clinic, there's one choice. They don't even ask you why you're there, if there's a way to help you. I want women to know, if you are contemplating an abortion because you can't afford your baby, and believe me, that's a big reason right now with Joe Biden's economy, there's help. There's financial help for you. If you don't think you can be a mother, you don't think you'd be a good mother, then there's also help for that. And we need to make adoption easier so that families who do want to have a baby but can't conceive can adopt babies. We need to make it cheaper and easier. I want to provide a way to save more babies. And right now, this law that passed, the real truth about this 1864 law is that it is not the law right now. Do you guys realize that? The AG has said it won't be enforced. So everyone's fighting about a law that's not even going to be enforced here in Arizona. And if they don't look back a little bit wider on this issue, we're going to end up with a voter initiative, which is on the ballot, which says 22 weeks, but by the way, it's abortion right up until birth. And we're going to have the most extreme abortion law not only a law, but a constitution. It'll be in our constitution. And so we're watching as our lawmakers are fighting over this 1864 law that will never take effect because it will never be enforced. And if they continue to focus on that, and out of what's really coming in harm's way is this initiative on the ballot. So I think our lawmakers need to do something quickly. I don't know if that's putting another initiative on the ballot to give people options, because if the voters of Arizona have to choose between 1864 and abortion up until birth, I have a feeling we're going to end up with abortion up until birth. This goes beyond what New York is doing. This goes beyond what California is doing. You could be the day before you're giving birth, and a chiropractor, a therapist could say, the mental health of the mother, she has to have an abortion. That's not where the people are, guys. People of Arizona aren't there. So we need to find some common sense approach. I'm never going to apologize for wanting to save babies and being pro-life. But I also realize the world that we're living in. Even if we have a restrictive law here, you can go 3 hours that way, 3 hours that way, and you're going to be able to have an abortion. We have to start working the minds and hearts of women and showing them that they can be a mother, doing whatever we can to make that happen.
Yeah. I think that going here and going there, this country is so divided, and I believe there's a lot of division through the media because you are either on this side over here or you're on this side over here. And the reality is, I believe 80% of people are somewhere in here.
In here, yeah.
And so
I will say I agree with Ronald Reagan and President Trump that we need exceptions. And right now that 1864 law, which is not in effect because it's never going to be in effect in Arizona. They want us to think it is, but it's not. Has restrictions for the life of a mother. I believe we need to have restrictions for rape and incest. And I know with some people in the pro-life community, they're appalled by that. But I would ask them, have you ever stood in the shoes of a young woman who's been brutally raped and is now finding herself pregnant? Have you ever stood in the shoes of a 13-year-old girl who's been the victim of incest at the hands of her uncle, brother, father? And I would venture to say that very few of them have, nor have I, thank God. But I am not going to say to a young woman who's been brutally raped that you must do this, you must do that. I think we need to have exceptions. And that's a very small percentage, by the way. And I would still hope that, that they would choose life, but we have to show that we have some compassion. And that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, I think that, I think women, it's hard for, where I get frustrated is, I see a lot of male politicians making claims about what women should do with their bodies. And that frustrates me because, I'm sorry, women should have a right to choose. I think they should have a time to choose it within a certain time. But I also believe that abortion shouldn't be a form of contraception.
First of all, it's in many, many states, including Arizona, it's the Republicans who help make contraception easy, over the counter, easy to obtain, free in many cases. So it's not an issue where people can't get contraception. And I disagree with you a little bit. I think that the man should have a say as well. I think if there's a baby that, we sometimes just sideline the man.
Yeah, in a couple's way.
And I will tell you this, my opponent, I'm not going to be lectured by this guy on being a woman, women's health. First of all, I am a woman. I am the only mother in the race. I want women's health care. So for him to say she doesn't care about women's health care, that I come from a family of 8 girls. I think I know a thing or two about being a woman and having women around me. And I have a daughter. I want to make sure that we're letting women know that they don't have to choose that one choice. There are other options for them. That being said, Ruben Gallego walked out on his wife when she was days away from giving birth to his firstborn. Walked out on her, served her divorce paper, and ran off with a DC lobbyist. It was so bad that her parents had to move here from out of state to help her get through the delivery and the early days of bringing her baby home. So I'm not going to be lectured by a guy who's a deadbeat dad on where I should stand on trying to save babies. I'm just not going to be lectured by that guy. And guess what? I think the people of Arizona, while they do care about this issue, I know for a fact they're more worried about how can I put food on my table right now? How can I afford my rent? How can we pay our mortgage?
I agree.
How can we make sure that our streets are safe? This is an issue that, while important and very near and dear and private to people, is an issue that, because of what Ruben Gallego and Joe Biden have inflicted on our country, people are much more worried about just getting by every single day, every single week. And if you like the way the direction this country is going, then maybe you should vote for Joe Biden. But I don't think we do. And I will tell you this, Ruben Gallego has voted 100% of the time with Joe Biden. 100% of the time. He's a rubber stamp for him, and now he's trying to make you think he's moderate. He's voted for the open border. He's said he would never vote for a wall, ever. He called the wall stupid. He said there's no problem in border towns. They're fine. Okay, go to a border town and ask them if they're fine when they have 500 people being released every day onto the streets. I don't think they're doing fine. I've been to a lot of border towns. He's also, he's just radical. He's not where Arizona is. He wants boys to compete in girls' sports, men to compete in girls' sports. As I said, he voted for a piece of legislation which would have increased our gas prices by $1. I mean, I cringe to think of that. And he supports states like Arizona being able to ban gas-powered vehicles. These are things that would send us into a spiral downward. And I could go on and on, his support of sanctuary cities. As I said, he wants to give everybody coming asylum and the right to vote. This is a guy who's just not where we are here in Arizona.
One last question, and then I want to take a couple of questions from the crowd, if that's okay, because I promise to be interactive. I heard an interesting thing from Tucker Carlson last week. He was at an event that one of my friends hosted down in Florida, and he brought up Big Pharma. And he said to me, not to me, he said in the discussion, he said, when you look at pretty much every commercial on TV or on the radio comes from Big Pharma. He said, because this was really eye-opening to me, he says, has any consumer bought their product? So the answer is no. You go to see what your condition is, and your doctor issues you your medicine.
Mm-hmm.
No consumer looks at a commercial for Ozempic and says, I'm going to go buy me some Ozempic. No, they go to the doctor issues a prescription. So the question is why? Why do they have consumer advertisement? And this was his response. And it really opened my eyes. He said, they spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on media. So the media doesn't say anything bad about them. They pay off the media
With the commercials.
with the commercials.
Yep,
It's
true.
not for consumers.
That's absolutely.
What is your take on Big Pharma? And because the way I look at this mental health crisis we're having is every single thing has a solution. If you walk a little bit crooked in the morning, you need this pill. If you sneeze 3 times and then you yawn, you need this pill. It's like out of control how much that we're just feeding people medicine, which everything has a cause and effect to it.
Well,
What do you
I saw that interview, and he's absolutely right. When you're watching media, look at who the sponsors are. That is really the payout. That's kind of the, okay, you don't criticize our industry, and we'll pay you by buying ads. And, I'll never forget it. It's absolutely true. I mean, look at just the COVID shots. The ads that were being spent by the government pushing vaccines. And listen, if you're vaccinated, that is totally up to you. I think it should be a personal choice, but you shouldn't be forced by your employer to get a vaccine or a shot that you're uncomfortable with, or risk losing your job. I think now we all get that that's wrong. But if you look at the ads that were running, it was the government running a whole bunch of ads about pushing people to get vaccinated, It was also Big Pharma, the people who were behind all those shots, running ads. That's kind of who was advertising during COVID. And then you had the newscasters and you had the hosts pushing the vaccine in what they were writing. Get your vaccine, sign up, go through this drive-through. I mean, it's one of the reasons that I said, I can't do this anymore. I am not here to push propaganda. This is the reason I walked out in the middle of a 7-figure contract, because I could not do that. That's not journalism, that's propaganda. And so Tucker's right, that interviewer was right. Look at who the sponsors are. And, you've heard if you're young enough, you've heard the be sure to tip your sponsor kind of phrase. They're tipping their sponsors by not covering truly They're not truly covering the issue of vaccine injuries, all of these things, any critical view of big pharma, because big pharma does all of the advertising.
Yeah, it's scary.
And once you start realizing that and wake up to it, you can never watch a newscast the same way again. I know I can't. And part of the time is because I
Were you ever asked to do things that you weren't comfortable with?
during COVID, I was pushing for more balanced coverage. There's a lot of stories out there of, somebody's whole family died, which is tragic. My goodness, it's absolutely horrible. We were watching what was happening with the protests, and they were being called, not protests, the rioting. Let's just call it what it was, rioting. Cities were burning, cop cars were torched, businesses were being torched, and they were calling it peaceful protests. I had a problem with it. I had a problem with reading every 30 minutes the death stats and the hospitals overflowing stats. And I started reading them in a different way. Instead of putting a fear to it, I said, look, we have new cases, and this is normal because everyone's being forced to be tested. Not everyone is sick. The hospitals are at 83% capacity. Hospitals are not built to sit at 20% capacity. Our ICU rooms are full. This is very common during cold and flu season and when our snowbirds come back to town. And pretty soon I was reading it with such calm that they stopped having me read it.
Yeah.
They wanted someone who was going to scare. And I just decided, this is not for me. This isn't for me. It's not worth it. I have to be honest, a half-truth is a lie. And I didn't get into journalism to deliver half-truths. I got into journalism to deliver the truth and dig for the truth. And that was not being done. It still isn't being done. And part of the problem is we have basically 5 corporations who own up the majority of the media. The great news is we have a lot of independent journalists out there who've broken free, and they're starting to cover what's really happening, Tucker Carlson included.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your courage on that. I think that's amazing. Thank you. All right. Are you good for a couple of questions? Yeah. We're going to open the forum up here with a few questions. Who would like to?
Do we have a microphone?
Where is the microphone? Yeah, we have a
Colton's
microphone.
going to do it. Is it on? This is a great background, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Love that.
We thought you'd like that.
Okay, who's got a question?
In the back?
And while you're walking to this gentleman, I have to thank Erica.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
so
absolutely.
incredible helping us
Absolutely.
put this together. Thank you, Erica.
It's amazing.
She's the real boss, that's for sure.
She's a mama bear too.
And she is.
First of all, Kari, thank you for your time today. And Jason, thank you for putting this together. This is amazing. My question to you, we've been talking a lot about some of the issues at hand now. I know our current administration has kind of snubbed Elon Musk. They didn't invite them to the electrical vehicle summit and things like that. I'm just curious, what is your position on the initiatives that Elon Musk is focusing on? How does that affect our country? Is that something that's on your radar, and are you in support of, or really what's your position on
Are you
on
referring
Elon?
to his business initiatives and pushing the electric vehicle and things like that? Or what? Give me
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, so obviously Elon is, he's working on a lot of things.
I really love what he's doing with the First Amendment. To be honest.
Right. I assume that. And I think, I guess my question really is, I haven't heard you talk about the initiatives that he's focusing on and how that might impact us as a country. And are the things that he's doing something that you're in support of?
Well, I'm going to first start with what's most important, our First Amendment, and the fact that he bought, can you imagine he bought Twitter to open up free speech again?
It's amazing.
Before we would have to be like, I don't know if I can tweet anything. Well, you couldn't. You tweeted something about COVID, the elections, vaccines, you were canceled. This is so foreign to my brain because I grew up believing that the Bill of Rights was the law of the land. There's no exceptions. And now we're going down a very slippery slope, like real fast. And we're about to lose our First Amendment here in our state. You can't even speak. You can't question your government when things are run poorly, when elections aren't run on the up and up. You can't question your government when they're fast tracking a vaccine and forcing it on people. It's our duty as Americans to question our government. It's our absolute duty. We've got a republic if we can keep it. Those were the famous words of Benjamin Franklin when they were crafting the United States Constitution. When a woman asked him, what kind of a government have you given us? A republic if you can keep it. And the if you can keep it part means we need to question our government. Right now, the government we have is tyrannical, in my opinion. This is the government they warned us about. And so I applaud Elon Musk. Here he isn't even, he was born in South Africa, grew up in South Africa, and in many ways, he cares more about this beautiful United States Constitution than a lot of people in our country right now, and most of the people in Joe Biden's administration. So I love that initiative. When it comes to electric vehicles, what a sham that they didn't have him there. Tesla is the #1 selling electric vehicle, and that Joe Biden would not have him at that summit is just, it's almost comical. And so, but what I will say is I'm a big believer in combustible engines as well. It's not feasible to go all electric. I forget, Sam, what was the figure you told me? How many electric charging stations would we have to build like every day?
Yeah, you need something like 12,000 just for trucks, 100,000 more a year for cars.
And how many was that, like every day or every week we'd have to be building?
100,000 a year, you're going to have to build hundreds a day.
Building hundreds a day. This isn't feasible. The Democrats and Joe Biden come up with a great idea. It's all rainbows and lollipops and fairy tales. But they don't realize that those cars, first of all, you have to plug them in, and there's energy that is required to charge that battery. Not to mention the mining that goes into those batteries. Those batteries are really like a ticking time bomb once we're done with them and we can't recharge them anymore, sitting in a landfill, poisoning the earth. And they want to ship off all of the manufacturing of those vehicles to China. That would decimate our auto industry, absolutely decimate our auto industry, and hand over something so important to China. And so, if you want an electric vehicle, good for you. For some people, it works out great. Some people, it's just not for them. I like to have the choice, and I'd frankly like to make sure that we still have an auto industry in America. But I applaud Elon Musk. I have gratitude that he's been bold enough to take his treasure and pour it into saving Twitter and giving us a place where we still have freedom of speech. And now he's being, threatened by the government of Brazil. They want to shut us down. They want to put a piece of tape over our mouth and make us serfs. And I'm frankly tired of begging our federal government for our rights. We got it backwards right now. We shouldn't be begging our federal government for our rights. Those are God-given rights enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, and we will no longer be down on our knees as serfs begging our federal government to have freedom of speech.
Agreed.
No.
One more?
And that's why, frankly, they hate me in Washington,
Sure,
D.C.
of course.
Hello.
So thanks for taking the time. Question for you. It's been brought up in the Senate with separate bills for the Ukraine funding as opposed to the Israel funding, with the defense and what's going on over there. How do you feel about maintaining the funding for the defense of Israel? Should it be a standalone bill? Should it be a combined bill with the Ukraine package? What's your sense on that?
Well, I'm going to just tell you, I talked to more people in Arizona than any other politician, than any other human being. I don't think there's anybody who talks to more people in Arizona than me right now. And also, I have a relationship with the people of 30 years, 27 years being in their home, being invited into their home. I have never spoken to one person who said we need to spend more money and send more money to Ukraine. We have a wide open border. We have an invasion in our country. We have homeless veterans and homeless families on the streets. We have people who can't afford the basics. And it's unconscionable that we would send another penny to Ukraine at a war that is already lost. When the spring offensive failed, it was over. It was over. And I will say this for people who across the country, especially in DC, they really want to send more money to Ukraine. If this is so important, and this is so important to Europe, why aren't these European countries sending more money there? Why does it fall on America to send all the money there? That being said, I am very concerned about what's happening in Israel with Iran, and it was self-inflicted because Joe Biden empowered Iran and bloodthirsty leaders of Iran to trigger terrorist attacks. I think helping Israel from what Iran is doing to them is in our best interest. And here's one of the reasons why, besides them being one of our greatest allies, is you all know we have between 9 and 12 million people who poured across our country unvetted. We don't even know who these people are, what their background is, but we do know there are terrorists who have come in because we have managed to catch a few, but we know we haven't caught all of them. It is just a matter of time before Hezbollah, Hamas, it's just going to take a phone call or a text message to trigger a terror cell within our own country. And so we need to take out these terrorists. I want, frankly, peace once again. And we had that with President Trump. The Abraham Accords, we had strength through peace. But for the next 7 months, I fear that we could have a terrorist attack on our soil. And I think helping Israel to wipe out the headquarters of those terror cells could keep us safe. Any other questions? We have time for one. How about this lady up here? How are you?
Well, how are you?
Great. Thank you for being here.
So President Trump has said that Arizona is one of the worst voting states fraudulently. What can we do as voters to make that better?
That's a question I get a lot, by
Great
the way.
question.
I'm very well aware of what President Trump's talking about.
You are?
I'm well aware of it. We're working hard right now. We've got, there's a bunch of lawsuits that are happening, not all from me, from Republican Party, from other outside groups who are concerned about fairness and honesty in our voting. Listen, I'm not looking for an advantage in our voting. I'm looking for parity, fairness. I want to make sure that there's a Democrat in this room, that her vote counts, her one legal vote counts, and I want the Republicans' vote to count. And when we have that, every one of us will be fine with the results of that election. But right now, that's not how our elections are being run. We vote for a month, we count for a couple weeks. There's a gazillion mail-in ballots. The system is not working. 80% of Republicans don't have trust in the elections. They don't feel that they're run properly or fairly. They think there's fraud. I think it's something like 70% now of independents, and 50% of Democrats think we've got fraud in our elections. We need to fix this. And so the way to fix it is we have to get out and vote, like our lives depend on it. If you sit home and don't vote, there's a chance somebody votes for you. You've heard those people who say, I didn't vote, but I looked and somebody voted for me. If we all go out and vote, somebody else isn't going to vote for us. And we need to make sure that if we have a mail-in ballot, we get it returned. You can still show up on election day if you want to vote election day, but we have to get out and vote. No sitting home this election. There's too much on the line. There's also a piece of legislation that President Trump, along with the leader of the House, just proposed. It's called the SAVE Act. Is that right? SAVE Act? Either that or SAFE Act. I think it's SAVE Act. And this would require that only U.S. citizens vote. Is that something that everyone here wants? Anybody here believe that people who are non-citizens should be voting in our election? Okay, just noting right now that no hands went up. Everyone here, these are independents and Republicans, and there's a Democrat here. Nobody wants people who are here illegally to vote. And this act would require that states get proof of citizenship before someone votes. Blue states would have to do that as well. It would require that anybody who is illegal, who registers to vote, be immediately deported. And it would require, it would call for a 5-year prison sentence for anybody who signs up illegals to vote in our country. And I'll tell you what, somebody said, that seems a little harsh. You know what's harsh? When elections are not run well, when they are stolen or rigged, look what happens to our world. I think it's harsh when 13 of our finest are killed in Afghanistan because we have a Joe Biden pulling out of Afghanistan the way he did. I think it's harsh when we have people pouring across our country. I think it's harsh when we have 100,000 people, young people a year dying from fentanyl poisoning. I think it's harsh that people who are on a fixed income, who are middle class, or even now in the poverty level, can't afford to eat. These are the consequences of elections that are not run properly. And so we need to have punishment when people are breaking election laws. I will continue to work. There are several cases. I know I made that a very long answer. It's important to me, and we need to make sure we're fighting off the fraud before it happens. Any other questions? We good? Oh, we got one more. Is this a good one?
He's a good guy, Kari. He can. He's my Canadian friend.
So yeah, so I'm Canadian. I lived half my life in Canada. I'm a legal resident here, kind of middle of the road, leaning right for sure. But this is one issue that's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle with the border and the Middle East. But so the medical system, I've lived in Canada and I understand the deficiencies there with the longer waits, but I also feel like in terms of profiting on the sickness of others, I just feel like I'm kind of in the middle, whether it should be a private system or a two-tier system. And I've also seen the struggles with people actually dealing with insurance companies to get their premiums, to, you know, get their bills paid. So I was just wondering what your opinion on that is.
Well, Obamacare was supposed to make things affordable, and it's not affordable. Most people who have it say, oh, well, great, I have it, but I can't afford a $9,000, $10,000 deductible, so I don't use it. And it's not working the way it is. It needs to be reworked. And we need to have an effort towards pushing people to get healthier. When you think about 15 days to slow the spread, what we could have done if we would have said 15 days to start getting us healthier. We know that one of the pre-existing conditions that was killing people with COVID was obesity and people who had, heart conditions and diabetes. And these are things that through a change and a shift in how we deal with getting people healthy could have prevented death. So I do think we need to do some tweaking or changing to Obamacare, reworking it to make it affordable because it's not working for people right now. I don't believe in privatized healthcare. I just don't think you get the best care out of that. So that's kind of where I stand on that. I just want to thank you all for being here today. I see so many faces of amazing people that are working hard, doing great things. And I know that, we've been raised that if we work hard, we reap the benefits. And right now it's feeling like the benefits are kind of falling away from us, even though we are working hard. If I get your vote for US Senate, I will work hard when I get to Washington, D.C. to make sure that every vote I cast, every piece of legislation I present, or try to bring down, because let's face it, there's a lot of bad legislation out there. We want to make sure that we're secure, making Arizona secure and safe and prosperous for all Arizonans. And that's with America First policies. I will work hard for you. I will be a senator you can be proud of. And I promise you, frankly, I'd rather die than disappoint the people of this great state. There's so much on the line right now. My kids' future, your business's future, our country's future, and our rights are on the line right now. And we need some outsiders to go to DC and knock some sense into these people. And I promise to do just that. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a friendly reminder for those that believe in the campaign.
Hold on, we've got a breaking news right now.
Uh-oh.
We just found out the Democrat with us wants to ask a question.
Oh.
Do you mind if we do it, guys?
Well, sure.
I would like to hear.
She's a wonderful Democrat, by the way.
Hi there. Thank you for being here.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm just the only one that would admit it.
It's hard these days, I imagine.
So you've been labeled divisive in some of your comments in the media. If you get elected to represent Arizona, what are you going to do to unify us and stop the back and forth contentiousness like we don't get along?
Yeah, I actually think we do get along. I think we do get along. The media, they have to label me something because they don't know what to do with me. They're afraid of me. They know that I'm going to go in there and get rid of the corruption and change the status quo. And they're freaked out about having another kind of Trump style person who wants to go in and actually make some good change for us. So I don't believe that I am divisive. I'm talking to people all over the state. I was in Tucson this week. We talked to a lot of people who are Democrats and really far left Democrats. I'm always happy to talk to anyone. As a journalist, I talk to everyone. I didn't say, are you a Democrat? Okay, I'm not talking to you. I didn't say that. I talk to everybody and I want to hear your opinions and the issues that are important to you. I will be a senator for all of the people of Arizona. That includes people who are registered Democrat. And I don't like the divisiveness. That's why I'm working as hard as I can to try to bring independents and Democrats over to realizing that these policies that we're talking about, that I'm talking about, that President Trump is talking about, are truly policies that make everyone's lives better. Low unemployment rates help Democrats and help Republicans. And we had the lowest unemployment rates in all sectors, no matter if you were Black, brown, white, Asian, you name it. Everyone was doing better under President Trump's America First policies. And I think you all know me well enough to know that what the media is saying about me is not true. I'm not divisive. I'm working to bring people together. I don't believe we can save our country with just Republicans alone. I think we have to bring people together. And so hopefully that helps. Thank you so much for the question. And thanks for being here.
And I must say this. Kari came here today out of goodwill, but these campaigns don't run themselves. So if you like, please, on your way out, if you could stop, grab a hat, grab a shirt, and donate to this campaign if you believe, like I do, in Kari. Like I said, she came out of here out of the goodness of her heart today. So let's help her. Let's help her
these
win.
campaigns are expensive. My opponent is being funded by God knows who. We don't know where it's coming from, but we're working hard to raise money. They're going to put $250 million will be dropped into the U.S. Senate race, this race in Arizona. By the time the election rolls around, you're going to want to take your TV and throw it off the balcony because you are going to be so inundated with ads. And I apologize in advance for that. But everybody wants to make sure that that's how important this race is. I believe we need to get President Trump in the White House. But if we don't have a majority in the Senate, can you imagine President Trump with Chuck Schumer in charge of the Senate? President Trump's confirmations for his cabinet members won't get through. His judicial picks won't get through. They'll start more bogus impeachments, and Chuck Schumer will push those through. This is a critical race. The seat to the White House and the path to the majority in the U.S. Senate goes right through Arizona. We are at ground zero. Any support you can give is appreciated. Most importantly, your vote, and that you talk to 10 people about what you heard today. Get them registered to vote and get them out to vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a great job. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, you're always on the run now, running after somebody. You gotta get it somehow. I think you got to slow down before you start to blow it. I think you're headed for a breakdown, so be careful not to show it. You really don't remember. Was it something that he said? All the voices in your head. 24